Hi, everyone. I'll tell you, tech issues are not my forte. But anyway, tech issues seem to be my forte. Tech doesn't seem to be my forte. Anyway, glad to be here with you today. Really, I'm just searching for a way to connect with you folks in the group. Um, and I know if you're like me, you're catching the video and you just may be too shy to comment or whatever, but always feel free to reach out to me if you are interested, or if you had any questions, to private message me, because I am available. I want to support you, and to that end, I have an idea I'd like to present to you. So I'll mention that a little bit later. But for those of you who don't know who I am, I'm Sharon Buck, and I'm an intuitive sound alchemist. That sounds fancy, but that basically means I use sound to alchemize and transform your inner blocks to outer success by helping you rediscover and access your inner genius, your own inner wisdom, and move forward with courage so you can live a freer, happier life and have a rewarding and successful business if that's your goal. I have done 20 plus years of personal work and have coached people to reach beyond their comfort zones towards their goals for over 2 decades. My passion is especially serving those who identify as sensitives, empaths, and introverts who want to share their natural creative gifts with the world. And easier said than done, especially in these times. Now, we do have, the internet and a lot of things at our disposal, but it's still a challenge for those of us who are more introverted and quiet, sensitive types like myself, who, quite frankly, would rather be walking on the beach right now than being right here live with you in a way. In another way, I really feel the urge to support people and help them on their path, especially given what I've been through. And I'm going to share a little bit about that today. It being spring, and just yesterday was Earth Day, I've been focused on everything growing in the garden and elsewhere in nature. It's really a joy to be around that energy. And I also think of the internal and external challenges that push us towards growth. Until we shift our internal reality, though, our external reality will not change. I've been living in the Pacific Northwest now for almost 30 years. It's hard to believe because time has just flown. I have been surrounded by nature's beauty here and elsewhere, and have always been smitten with nature. I mean, as far back as I can go. I remember listening to the birds and loving being out sitting in the grass, having a picnic as a child. And I've noticed that as I do my personal work, I've become more present and able to be in that moment, just like I was as a child, and taking that beauty more and more. Our internal reality really colors what we experience in the moment, and what's in our minds affects our perception and how we experience our lives. There's also a different type of stresses. You might have heard of this. We learned this in massage school: stress and eustress. I never heard of eustress before. It's spelled Eustress. So it's got the word stress in it. But the stress interferes with our natural flow of energy and our growth, while eustress is a beneficial stress that pushes us to grow and change. It may be uncomfortable, but it is really necessary in order for growth to occur. I can't help but think of plants here. If a plant is too stressed, if it does not get enough water or light, it will not survive. By the same token, they need to push through the soil, reach for nutrients in the soil and for sunlight, sometimes not so available, and eventually evolve and grow. We are more resilient than we think. Life tests us and we have choices. Even if it's a decision to not be the victim, or to stop a behavior that gets us into trouble, or to set a boundary to protect our space, whether that be at home or at work. And we often need assistance, a nudging towards the light, whether it be external circumstances that force change, or an internal awakening and choosing a different direction. Turning again to the plant analogy, a seed is dormant until it is planted. It needs water, soil, oxygen, and light to grow and to thrive. It doesn't compare itself to others, it just grows. There is some chance involved, and only the strong and determined plants survive. And there is just mere surviving, and then there is thriving. Some seeds do better in certain soils and then just really blossom and grow. My seed story, which I do have one, is that for the first time, I started a vegetable garden last spring, actually really late in the season. And it was my first vegetable garden, really. I remember trying one in a sandbox as a child. So, I mean, it wasn't too successful as you can guess, but it had always been my dream to have a garden and to grow nutritious things. And I'd always imagined a lettuce garden. So it's interesting. I do grow a lot of lettuce. But this year, I decided to start more from the seed instead of getting the little, packets of plants at the garden stores. And quite frankly, it was a lot harder than I thought it would be. I mean, I come from generations of farmers, okay? I mean, on both sides of my family. And I'm from the prairies in Saskatchewan, and before that in Germany, before that, Russia. And, there is a genetic component here, I believe. But it's not long after I started I did see some little green heads poking up from the seeds I planted. And I did put them in these little pots, and I followed the directions, and some stalks came up, and I got all excited, like, wow, they're growing. It's so exciting. And I moved them to a sunlit corner of the house and eagerly awaited the next phase. Only they started to get leggy, and some of them wilted and unfortunately never recovered. I actually have some dead little guys I can't quite throw out yet. But I did some online research. All right, I think we lost that connection. So I don't know what's happened. Hopefully I'm still there. I just got a message that I got disconnected from my group. I don't know what's happening, but anyway. So I was talking about my plants, and they only started to get leggy, and some of them just never recovered. So I did some research and consulted an expert gardener and my parents, and decided to use a small light with a bendable neck to lower it closer to the plants so they didn't have to reach so much. They were just trying to find the light. I also figured out I had overwatered and found a dropper and started more attentively watering them. And very slowly, I saw most of the little seedlings recover. Not all of them made it, but enough for me to continue with the process. Well, I'll keep you posted how this all goes, but the adventure continues. Well, what does this have to do with anything? Well, when I come back to my life, or any of our lives, I've pushed myself out of a cocoon of comfort countless times. And I just had another tech glitch. Oh dear. I pushed out of my comfort zone countless times and in my life. And there was one time in my life that stands out. And that was just after graduate school. I knew I had skills, but they were untested in the real world. And I'd really never been out in the real world. I mean, I kind of went from undergraduate, I had a little job interning at a school, and then I went to graduate school. And yeah, that was a leap. That was going from Canada to the US, and I had to be on a student visa. But I'd been in this bubble of academia for years, and it was time to test the waters and see if I could survive. Well, long story short, while it was a very exciting job opportunity I had in Seattle, in just a short space of time, things got super stressful and things began to blow up in my face. My dream job had become literally a living nightmare, and there seemed to be no escape. I was here in a strange city. I didn't know anybody. I wasn't quite done my requirements for my grad school. I was living in my first apartment, trying to make the rent payments, uh, just trying to make it like everybody on their own for the first time. And I was using public transportation to get everywhere or walking. And as my job became increasingly stressful, my relationship with my boyfriend then at the time began to disintegrate. And when he left me, things quickly went over the edge and I went into a deep depression. It seemed there was nothing that could turn my ship around. So in desperation, I reached out to a friend who gave me the name of her therapist, saying I should give therapy a try. Well, I could not afford therapy, at least in my mind. And the pain was so intense, though, and I felt it. I basically had no choice. I mean, it was either this or I didn't know what was going to happen. I just was at the end of my rope. Little by little, as I met with this therapist, I caught glimmers of light. I was so numb from the pain, I could barely cry, and then I cried a lot. And I thought the tears would never end, and I would never be free from pain. I also thought what I thought would be a short-term commitment to therapy ended up going from 6 months, then to a year, and then, believe it or not, eventually 10 years. And so I got to the point where 20 years later, I ended up working with yet another therapist after my grandmother died, pushed me into another dark period. So I ended up doing therapy again with somebody else for another 10 years. Hard to believe, but I mean, I kept thinking, well, one more year, I'll get through it. And then I ended up doing couples therapy and with my husband, and tens of thousands of dollars later, my life was on a much more even track. Little did I know that all of this would pave the way to the most stability and happiness in my life that I've ever known. But I have to tell you, it was a tough time. There were many times I thought of giving up, but I didn't. I went from being miserable and barely surviving to being content and thriving. And along the way, and several turns later, I found myself and my purpose in helping others. I am now committed to helping people who want more than just to survive. It takes courage. It takes commitment. It takes perseverance. And it takes skin in the game. However, I don't think it needs to take 2 decades of therapy for a person to turn things around. If I knew then what I know now, believe me, the journey would have been a lot shorter. Of course, there weren't other things at the time, other approaches and such things as sound healing. There was somatic experiencing, and it was just starting to become a thing at that time. And these days, instead of decades, it might just be a few sessions, maybe several months, maybe a year, depends on the person, but you can really see huge shifts. The truth is, you are the only thing that stands between you and a different reality. And it's deeper than a mindset shift. There's a lot of stuff about mindset out there, and it is very helpful. I know that. I'm doing some of that. But we can actually change the story, not just the belief about it. So what would that be like? In fact, we can rewrite it. We can reclaim our natural essence, the core of who we truly are, and we can change the no's to yeses. We can remove the barriers and the blocks to the flow of abundance and pleasure in our lives. I'm here to tell you we can reclaim ourselves, and it doesn't have to take decades. Back to the plant analogy. When we interfere with the natural growth of a plant, if we remove the light, it withers and dies. If we don't provide enough light, it gets leggy and struggles. If we overwater or underwater, the plant does not do well and can die. If we can step in and address these things, we can help this plant. Chances are the plant will have a better chance of succeeding. We have the power to affect the outcome of our lives. We have more power than we realize or give ourselves credit. But we must make ourselves a priority and put ourselves first on our list. And nobody else can do this for us. As adults, we can receive assistance. We don't have to do it alone. But nobody can do the work for us. You know the old expression, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. It's very true. And there's no time to lose. We assume there will be another opportunity, but the truth is our time is now. The truth is we are struggling right now. And as I work to keep hope alive in this, really difficult time that we're going through as a collective, I encourage you as well to take some action towards living more fully, to continue reaching toward the light, even when it seems the odds are against you and you can't figure a way out. We all have that potential, the potential of the seed to grow, to fully mature and to thrive even, and most especially in the midst of difficult circumstances. We are the light we seek. It is within us, even when we are in doubt. But we must root ourselves in healthy, nurturing soil and environs to succeed. We must surround ourselves more with light and be open to changes in the wind. Doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result, is the definition of insanity. We need to take courageous, often, believe me, uncomfortable action. And we must get clarity before we can make changes. Otherwise, we're just grasping at straws. We need to see the options in front of us. We need to pluck out the weeds and sprinkle in some fertilizer. And that is the work I do. I help people get clarity so they can see more clearly and make better choices for themselves, so that they're more aligned with where they want to go in their lives, in their business, wherever they want to be. I've been through a lot. We all have. And I'm here as a catalyst and as a support for those of you who want that. You have the advantage of almost 30 years of investing in myself and my own transformation. Only I can promise you that with the work I do and with your 100% commitment, it won't take you that long. How much is that worth to you? I'd like to propose getting on a group Zoom call in the next week or so. I haven't set a time or date yet, but with anybody who would like to share with me what their struggles are and see if there's a way I can support that. What would be the best way to support that for you? I've provided several opportunities, but not many of you have taken me up on them yet. Yet I hold open the possibility that will change. I will post more about this opportunity in the group, so stay tuned. And if you already know you're ready to get some clarity on where you're blocked in areas of your life or your business, please message me and we can get on a call where I'll actually work with you using sound to discover where the specific blocks are and discuss what you can do about them. In fact, in that group Zoom call, I'm thinking of doing something similar but more of a group situation. Also, a reminder that this coming Sunday at 4 p.m. Pacific, we have our usual sound bath gathering. So if you'd like to join us then, we're right here in the Facebook group at Empowered Empaths on Empath Entrepreneurs. So that's a lot to digest and think about and be with, but I want you to know that I am here for you, and reach out to me if you would like to talk more. You can private message me and I will likely get back to you soon. All right. In the meantime, I hope to see you Sunday. I hope this video came through because there were a couple of glitches there, and crossing my fingers on that. So again, thank you so much for the opportunity to speak with you today. And I hope you have a wonderful weekend and hope to see you Sunday. All right. Take good care and bye for now.